All right, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. We are back again, boy. We got a full calendar today. We got this young man in the studio right now. I talked to them a few months ago about something's going on with a trial with kids and listening to the story. It's not adding up on what is going on. It's not adding up at all. It's a lot of frustration between them, the DA's office, CPS. It's a lot of things going on, and they have been doing the proper channels, getting to people, but nobody want to hear what they have to say. And I'm wondering is because that he's a black male, and that he should be able to take care of his problems. But once you hear this story, you're gonna know that is not the problem. As they say, the problem is not the problem. The problem is their attitude about the problem. And their attitude is none. I'm going to put it like that. Okay, without further ado, this young man came over to the studio today. I'll let him introduce himself. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Rosendo Rodriguez. Thank you for having me here today.
Okay, so give us a brief Reader Digest version. What's leading up to the day with the brick walls you run into? Just tell us, what happened from the beginning. I think we talked to you. It's about something about your kids, and there was a fight outside the apartment building you was at, and she was the one that actually hit you, and they were getting ready to arrest you at that time. You want to go in a little bit of detail about that, sir?
Yes. So, January 2021, mom had assaulted me while children were in her arms, my arms. Actually, she assaulted me in our apartment. She called her family. I called 911 in my family to assist me in getting me and our sons out of the altercation. Um, Upon waiting for officers, her family had gotten to our apartment there first, and I have twin. We have twin sons, and so she gave one of our sons to her brother. He took off with one of them, and mom proceeded to chase me down in the apartment for our other son, and looked me right in my eyes, saying, "Give me the baby. I'm going to tell the officers you hit me. Who do you think they're going to believe?" After she told me that, I mean, there's no going back. There's no going back whatsoever. She jumped on my back while our 5-month-old child was in my arms, cradled, threw both of us back, and proceeded to choke me out while I was on the ground. Her mom came, snatched our other son out of my arms. Uh, then from there, they tried to leave. I chased after them, tried to get my child back from her, cradling him out of her arm. While attempting to do that, mother jumped on my back again to try and choke me out, and her mother proceeded to get free of one hand and hit me while the child was still in my arms. So then from there,
Wow.
my family and had arrived. My mother and her friend at the time tried to break it up. Attempted to get my other son from her brother. Again, 5-month-old children. I was able to get free of one of our sons and go back up to my apartment and wait there until officers arrived. Officers arrived quite some time later, and 3 officers had interviewed her mom, and her brother. They all gave statements that I assaulted mother, which was not true. But it's like their word against mine. But the officers that arrived to question me on what happened, they asked, well, we just heard 3 different stories, but the only thing that was the same was that you assaulted mom. And I mean, when they looked at my physical appearance, I'm the one that's swollen in the face, bruises everywhere, scratches, and they're like, I mean, from the looks of it, it looks like you got the full brunt of what happened here today. I explained to them what happened, and
Oh, wow.
one of the craziest things is what the officers, they all said, "Why didn't you defend yourself?" I was stunned. I was shocked. I was like, if I had defended myself, there, what is it? I'd be the one in handcuffs.
Right.
Like then their story would go ahead. It would work against within their favor.
Yeah. So, what exactly did they do? Did they end up arresting anybody?
They did. They arrested her that day. Released the children into my care, but she was only held for 8 hours. Due to COVID. They couldn't keep the misdemeanor offenses within lockup. She was able to get bond. And from there, I waited 3 years within the district attorney's office and reaching out to the district attorney's office on who would be handling the case. And then fall of 2023, I was able to hear back from the DA's office of the impact court that handles the domestic violence family assault cases. Finally, after it had been passed off to I don't know how many ADAs within the district attorney's office, they tell me that that mom would be getting what is called deferred adjudication, which is usually, apparently, it's the norm for someone who commits an assault for the first time, first offense. So basically, they give them classes. It's almost like a slap on the wrist. They just get classes on family violence, some education, maybe community service, and I just felt that's absurd because children were present, but apparently since I protected our children so well, child endangerment would be hard to prove. That's one thing that I was being told by many attorneys is that we have to be able to prove what actually happened.
So, okay, the story gets more bizarre. I hate to use that word bizarre, but she was physically also abusing the kids, wasn't she?
So within the 3 years of us having 50-50 custody, I was only able to get that because of the assault that her and her attorney agreed to. My sons were coming back with very unexplained and little to no information injuries. I mean, I have less than a year old falling and hitting the corner of his head, getting cuts on his eye, and she tells me that he hit his head on the corner of a table. And it's like, well, we can, that is preventable. That they have, that is a preventable injury. And then so on and so forth throughout the years. They keep coming back, within 2022, 2023, I see dark bruises from the midline of their back down to their rear end. And it's like, okay, what happened here? Oh, they fell on some toys. They both fell on some toys? Again, it's not adding up.
And speaking about not adding up, what was the talking about all the bruises and stuff? Everything is not added up. CPS. How did you file? See, anytime you take a child to a hospital or a doctor or something like that, they see bruises on them. CPS is normally contacted in this situation. Did they help you out in any type of way?
I would think that CPS would help. I mean, that's their job. I mean, it's not called CPS, but the formal name is DFPS, Department of Family protective services, but I mean, their job within the description is to help the children in some way or shape or form. So when I go to the ER and tell them what happened, and this is the story that mother gave me, yes, they contacted Special Victims Unit, SAPD, and CPS. And from what I've been told is that SVU usually follows what CPS is going to do. CPS is the one that runs the show, and then SVU is going to be the one that charges the parents if there's proof with it, whatever CPS finds. But the CPS investigator that we got assigned to that case, there was just so much discrimination.
Yeah.
And it's funny because after I told him what happened, gave him the full rundown what's been going on with mother, he proceeded to tell me, well, these are the set of consequences that you have to deal with. You chose to make a baby with this person. And it's like, excuse me? I'm sorry, who are you? You're not a couples counselor. And I'm sorry, but the world ain't so black and white like that. It's like I didn't go out and choose the worst person in the world to have a baby with. She obviously wasn't like this. I mean, when I met her or had,
See, for them to turn around and ask you that question about that, the way I'm looking at it right now, that you're a black male and you should not be filing charges against a female. Officer said, why didn't you defend yourself? If you defend yourself, you be the one put in jail.
Oh, yes.
So it's a lot of this that's going on and everything. And so let's get down to this other one. This is the one that really, really tore at me, is when they were the mother's baby. She was down in the valley, and one of the babies was walking on the street.
Yes. So within our court order that we have right now for the 50-50 custody, one thing that mom would always threaten me with was that she's going to take our sons over the border, and I will never see her or our sons again. Now, she's from the valley, and I have no idea what kind of connection she does have within her Latin heritage, and if she does have family over the border in Mexico. So my fear was that, yes, she is going to kidnap them, and I won't be able to find her where she is. And so I had put in our court order that she is not to leave San Antonio with our sons within 75 miles. That was reasonable. Her and her attorneys agreed to it, signed it. And so last Thanksgiving, she had our sons for the Thanksgiving week. And after Thanksgiving, she returned them back to me on Sunday for my visitation time, and the very next day I get a call from what happened to be CPS in Hidalgo, and the CPS investigator is telling me, is this Rosendo Rodriguez? I said, yes. I was calling to inform you about a situation that occurred in Mission, Texas, Hidalgo County, with your son Elijah. I said, I was just stunned. I was like, what happened? She's like, oh, well, he was found in the middle of the road by somebody that was driving by, and I dropped to my knees. I was in such shock, and I was shaking. I couldn't believe that this is actually happening, and I'm like, what happened? She tells me, oh, well, your son was found in the middle of an intersection off the interstate, and it was a person that was just driving by, saw him, and got him out of harm's way off the road. She called 911, And when 911 arrived, they were back in mom's care, and um, I, I started pressing her for questions, asking, what did mom say? She said, oh, well, mom said that her and who she claimed was the father of Elijah and Ezekiel, our sons, that they were outside in the front yard with Ezekiel and thought Elijah was inside the house. And I was like, oh, how long? And I was asking, how long was he gone for? She said he was only gone for within minutes. I said, but they thought he was inside. Again, it's not adding up. Her story is not adding up. And so she tells me that when they went inside, they looked for Elijah, couldn't find him, searched the house, couldn't find him, searched the property, couldn't find him, and then went outside the property and saw him down the street with a woman. And sure enough, when officers arrived, she tells the officers that her first name and then the last name of her boyfriend, and that this is her husband and their 2 children, with each identifying herself and our sons with the last name of her boyfriend, and that the residence that they were at is where they resided and lived at. So upon me finding all this out, I contact my attorney, let her know what just happened. She's telling me we need the police report. I go ahead and contact the officer who arrived and what happened. And when I identified myself, he was like, I'm sorry, who are you? And why am I requesting information about this police report? I said, well, I'm the father, not that man that you questioned. And I started pressing him for questions about what happened. I said, well, was there any ID? Oh, they said they didn't have ID. So you just took their word for it. What investigating did you do? And see, now I didn't want to press him too hard and kind of get on him about his job, because it's like, I need this officer, this deputy. I need him to come forward and to talking about, okay, what like, I need you to come out and say that this person lied to you and the department on an official police report about her identity and where she resides. That has to be against the law, and it is. I mean, I spoke to a sergeant, and he said, "Oh yes, that is against the law. She lied on an official police report." I mean, what is it? They said if the officers did their job correctly, they had their body cams on. He said what is it? He's telling me that it should go through after the investigator looks into this with all the facts and information that he was providing. And I was just like, okay. And I mean, this gentleman, he was helping me. It's just that I had no faith in the investigator that was on the case, because after I'm talking to him, explaining to him what happened, like, hey, this is what mom did. I'm dad. My son was found in the middle of the road. It should be cut and dry. Like, it should be a slam dunk of a case.
Right. But the deal is right here. It's a couple of things wrong with this. Number one, she was more than 75 miles outside the zone.
Oh, yes. Way more.
And number two, she gave false names about the babies, and she still got off scot-free.
Yep. The investigator, the DFPS investigator told me that since the boys reside in San Antonio and not in Mission, Texas, that it would be transferred over to Bexar County. I was like, okay. She told me that Bexar County DFPS investigator would reach out to me. Once the investigator reached out to me, she planned an interview, and that's one thing that I found very confusing with DFPS in Bexar County, San Antonio. When I spoke with when we reached out to to the Hidalgo County DFPS and told them what we've been going through and what's been happening. And we're speaking to the regional director and the supervisor of that investigator, because apparently that day the DFPS investigator that was on the case, after however it goes, after she informed the on-call supervisor of that day, it was up to the on-call supervisor whether the children were to be released back into mom's care or taken. And the regional director and supervisor tell me that, oh no, that child should not have gone back with mom. And I'm just like, are you serious? Okay, well, is this going to at least be put into word to the investigator over here? And they said it'll be like a joint task force type of thing. Like they are going to contact and communicate everything that the investigator found and all that good stuff. And I was just like, okay, like that's great. As soon as I meet up with the investigator here in San Antonio, she comes into my residence and first thing she tells me, well, we're not going to be moving forward with a safety plan. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, how? And I'm probably about 6 feet away from her. She's sitting down, and I got up in such astonishment. I did put my hands over my head in just complete confusion and surprise. And she goes ahead and tells me, I'm sorry, sir, if you're going to act this way, then I'm going to have to leave. And I said, excuse me? She's like, yes, you're coming off as very threatening. And I'm like, how am I coming off as threatening? She said, well, I'm sitting down and you're standing up. And I said, what? And my mom had to calm me down and tell me like, baby, just go ahead and sit down and speak to her, like, so you don't come off as threatening. And I'm just like, threatening?
Well, you know, that is some of the key things they say with minorities. When we speak what we need to say, they look at it being threatening. So to me, with her coming off like that, wasn't there a point that you said that CPS, somebody from there, was going to be a witness for the kid's mom?
Yes, the investigator that was handling the case of the bruises from the midline to the rear end, he, after I had finished my interview with him, he still needed to interview my mother. He needed to interview people that are around our sons. And so while interviewing my mother, actually, he said, well, we're going to be closing the case, and he just needs to get her side of the interview for the case. And we were just stunned as to why the case was being closed. He's like, oh, well, mom said that the kids fell on some toys, so it matches up with the description of injury. I said, they're in diapers. How do they have bruising on their rear ends in the midline of their back? I mean, bruising all the way down. I mean, did they fall on bricks? And he's like, well, the story that mom gave me, it matches with the description of the injury. And I'm just like, this can't be real. And my mom was like, well, we feel like we're not getting our fair shake. Like, it seems like that you're coming off as very biased, especially with the comment that you made saying that these are the set of consequences that I have to deal with because I chose to make a baby with this person. And he's like, oh, now I'm being racist? After she said bias, I said, and then that's when I jumped in and I said, excuse me, nobody said anything about race. And she said, yes, now she said, we're not going to even sugarcoat it. You're being prejudiced and discriminatory. And he's like, how am I being a racist? And he's like, and then we're like, okay, there he goes again. We did not bring race into this. Discrimination comes in all shapes and forms. I started listing off all the categories of discrimination. I said, you brought race into this. He's like, oh, okay, well, you and mom go ahead and keep calling DFPS on each other. I'm sure your children will turn out fine. And I said, excuse me, was that sarcasm? He's like, yes, it was. I was like, and this is a state official. This is somebody that represents a state agency. And I'm just like, wow.
So I'm sorry, but some of the stuff that you are saying, and nobody did nothing to it. People, I'm gonna say this: if it was reversed, if it was a woman, everything would been they've been right there. I'm still born. They're discriminating him because he's a man, and men don't file charges like this. So they say. You gotta remember, a parent is not man or woman. A parent is a parent. It doesn't matter what a race, what gender they are. They're a parent. But when you go out and a parent comes you with this situation and show the evidence and you turn your back on it, that's why I say there's a problem right here. So what avenues are you taking right now? Is anything else going on?
Well, right now, I reached out when I found out that CPS is closing the case. The sheriff's department closed the case on their side. The officer doesn't want to move with pressing charges against Brittany for falsifying police documents, and it's like, well, everything on this. What was very confusing was when I tried reaching out to a sergeant that I'd been speaking with. I said, "How is this even like this police report even here? Because it's all lies. The people, what happened. I mean, other than the only thing that's not a lie is the woman finding my child and calling 911, finding him in the middle of the road off the interstate. Like that's the only thing that's true, that's factual in this police report.
Yeah.
But anybody else that reads this police report, it's false." And so when I reached out to the state representative, she told her people to get on it on what's going on and why did DFPS make this move, and why did Hidalgo Sheriff's Department do this, as in closing the case and what's being done. And they're still figuring it out 6 months later. And I don't know. At this point, we're waiting to hear back from them. We don't know what's going on. I've been trying to reach out to news stations and don't hear back from anybody else. But dogs and high school graduates can make the news, and when it's something like this of a black man crying out for help who's a present father. I mean, I'm waiting to go to court. I go to court next week, and my attorney is going to bring this to the judge, and I have video evidence, recordings of what actually happened from the officers and the DFPS investigators, because it's like, it's my word against theirs. So, but no, when I have these recordings, it's your word against yours. So.
Exactly. It's just dumbfounded on everything that's going on. Okay, now that we have you here, and what can we do? I'm gonna reach out to the audience out there. They need some help. They need some help because they're running across brick walls. Who can they go to? I mean, can somebody jump up and lead this young man in the right direction? I'm going to let him go in and say how to get a hold of him and all that good stuff, because this got to get resolved. This has been going on for 3 years.
3 years, about to be 4. Yes, and we've been trying to go to court with Mom and her attorney, and her attorney he's reset it about 9 times. He's cried out COVID for 3 times. 4th time, he didn't prepare because he had COVID for so long. He's a criminal attorney, so criminal trumps civil. So any type of criminal cases that he's on, he's allowed to be 3-4 hours late to court, and then by the time he arrives, it's time for lunch, and then the afternoon, and there's no way that we can finish up in court for 3-4 hours on what's everything that's been going on. So it's been reset for quite some time. A lot of delaying tactics. He had a baby, and then he'll reach out to us a week before saying, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to attend," and the judges allow it. The judges apparently they've been there. They were attorneys, so they understand how it works. But 9 times when children's lives are in jeopardy and there's neglect and supervision. I mean, I have a story where mom sent me an image of one of my sons having an injury on the inside of his forearm and said that sibling bit the other sibling. Okay, they are 3 years old. Yes, children bite, but when I took them to the ER, medical staff, SAPD, they all said that is not a bite. There are no teeth ligature marks whatsoever. And upon DFPS investigating more, go back and interview mom. She comes out and finally says the truth. If this is actually the truth, she was in the other room, doesn't know what happened. But due to the great deduction and detective skills of DFPS, we're able to conclude that my 3-year-old son grabbed a model car with one hand, put it on the opposite side of the inside of his forearm, and pinched himself with the car door of said model car, causing the trauma, the pinching trauma on the inside of his forearm. Closed the case and left it alone from there.
You know, God forbid anything happened to your twins. But stories like this that are told by others in the past that could have been averted, and CPS said they dropped the ball on it, they didn't know this was going to happen. So the same things is, when is enough going to be enough that they learn? They got to take these cases seriously.
Of course. I mean, just the other day I saw on the news that children, what is it, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-month-old was left in the inside of a car, and a woman saw these children inside a hot car, and their mother was inside the store for about an hour, and she's being done for child endangerment, and the children were released to other family members, but it's like, she's getting justice. Like, where's my justice? Where's the justice for our sons? Right. I mean, it's like DFPS won't do anything until death, and then it's too late. Yeah. There's I'm sorry's. That's not going to bring back these children. When there's a paper trail, there's history that's showing what's happening. And then I get told by SAPD detective from SVU saying that there's actually notes in here that mom and dad keep calling CPS on each other or DFPS on each other as a use, to use as a weapon, since they are going through a custody battle. And it's like, that's not true. I'm worried about my son's safety. I know their mother. I know what she is capable of and what she's not capable of. And I mean, the proof right here is in this police report, my son was found in the middle of the road. A bystander had to move him out of harm's way and call 911. That right there, I mean, that says it all. And we're waiting to go to court next week and see what happens from there. I mean,
okay. So what I want, he's going to give information to you on how to get a hold of him, because he's running against a brick wall. If somebody out there can help this young man out to expedite what's been going on almost 4 years, please reach out to him. So can you give him your name again, and if you want to, the phone number, how to get a hold of you, and all that good stuff?
Of course. My name is Rosendo Rodriguez III. My number is 210-744-6470. That's the best way to reach me.
Okay. Well, Rosendo, we appreciate you coming, stopping by the office.
Of course.
Of course, I'm gonna let y'all know. I heard the whole story. I know about this. So what he's giving right now is a Reader Digest version of what's going on. But even that right there, what he told us today, will send some type of signal up to somebody. Something needs to be done. Okay, Rosendo, we appreciate you coming in, and we're gonna find out what's going on and keep us up to date and informed of what's happening, because the viewers gonna want to know, because after this get out there, they definitely gonna want to know what's going on. Okay.
Of course.
All right. You take care.
Okay, thank you.
All right. This is DJ Ron J on WSAN Radio.